This right here, this crescent square, is representative of a real strong struggle to be able to express her beliefs, to be able to integrate and walk her beliefs out there in the world. Finishing up that crescent square, she knows what she believes. She has some doubts once in a while, 88 degrees, but she pretty much knows it. But now she's just trying to get that last push out there to really be the example of those beliefs, express those beliefs. This could also be a symbol of an evolution of different beliefs throughout this lifetime. Okay, because that sun in the 12th house, you know, there's going to be a part of yourself that understands the mystic side of so many belief systems and the commonality of them all. And so then you're going to, in your, I got to see, I might need a new battery. The Jupiter signature, again, might be an evolution of different belief systems throughout this life, not totally different from each other, because if she remains in that philosophical side of them, she'll see the similarity. I want to know the truth.
See, that's what my struggle is. I understand the commonality, but bringing it out and being a publicist for that, or standing strong and telling everybody, hey, this is, you know,
Yes.
everything's common.
Yes, standing up to society, disseminating phase, and saying, I know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to keep track of time. Everybody, is this working? You following this? Okay. Moving into that first quarter phase, it's just like it says. It's the crises in action. It is the energy moving outward again. It is the expression of the new evolutionary intent between any two planets. And we talked a little bit here about the, again, once it's past, if I call her Shirley because my 5 planets in the 9th house, I can't pronounce things worth a darn. So it's the joke in our household. So Shirley, thank you for letting me call you that. If that Jupiter was 92 degrees, she'd have no problem telling anybody what she thinks about her beliefs. And if they give her feedback, she would just tell them right off the bat. She's moving towards that. So remember that. You're moving towards being able to really express it and not even care what they think or believe. Opposite of that first quarter. So here, this is all manifesting again. The soul has got past the doubts of bringing it out, and now it's becoming full of. This is me coming out. This is what I think. This is what I feel. This is how I'm going to act. This is what I'm going to do. And when we get to the biceptile, if there needs to be a realignment, it'll bring in certain fated circumstances in people that will help them realign. That'll cause them, because it's yang, that the septile here, whereas the crescent septile, it's so inward, it'll bring a lot of outer stuff. This will bring inner stuff. It'll bring the opposite of that phase to just bring the realignment in. Shift that energy to come back and focus whatever way is necessary. So this would be about shifting the actions to be more in a line with what's necessary, with what the soul is wanting to evolve and develop. And then, of course, what do we run into at the 120 mark? The trine. This is where any planetary pair is full of itself and its whole integration. It's come 120 degrees, a third of the way around the circle. It's aware of itself. It's aware of how it wants to express. It's full of self. This is the 0 degree Leo mark, the epitome of that Leonian subjective conscious. This is me. This is how I am. Take it or leave it. And again, it'll be germane then to whatever planets you're working with. If it was Mars, Pluto, which is conscious and unconscious desires of the soul, This could be somebody who has been working upon their desire nature for long enough that anything they desire just seems to smoothly come along. Waxing trine. Anything I desire comes through. Mars, Pluto. They run the risk of what I've said before. I call the trines the couch potato aspects. It's so nice, I think I'll just sit here. And then eventually what happens is those desires they're going to stop manifesting at some point, or they'll keep manifesting, but there'll be a circular manifestation. There won't be anything that evolves from it. Yes?
Would you be willing to speak to that aspect between Mercury and Jupiter?
Between Mercury and Jupiter, that's going to be the integration of left brain, right brain. It's going to be very intuitive in regards to self. 120, waxing trine. All right? This is going to be somebody who gets those sparks of insight, the intuitive hits about what they need for themselves. Mercury. This could be somebody who could be very fluent in being able to get their own ideas across. This is what I think. This is what I feel would be good for me. You know, there's Jupiter and Mercury together as a planetary pair also work with communications. Any of you who have 9th house and Sag and Jupiter stuff in your chart and you know it, but how do you get it out? Look to where Mercury is. And that whole cycle between Mercury and Jupiter can tell you how well you can talk what you know. That waxing trine is somebody who can clearly express themselves and express what they know. And they can do it, waxing trine, in a pleasing enough way that people listen, that people hear what they're saying. There's an ease between Mercury, Jupiter. The couch potato side of it is to never evolve the thinking processes. I'm comfortable right here in this little spot of my intuition. I'm comfortable with these beliefs that I've developed up to this point. I don't want to look at evolving my beliefs. I don't want to look at anything that shakes my security system in my belief system. Yeah, nice example without having to use the chart. This makes sense for everybody in regards to that? Okay. This is a fairly easy phase to basically understand because we've heard enough of it from the squares. We've heard that we've got to manifest the new. And as we move along and manifest new between any two planets, they come into harmony with the trine. They also come into the fullness of ego. And so what happens over the last 15 degrees, this is the, this is 0 Leo, okay? This is 15 degrees Leo in the natural zodiac when we get to the crossover from first quarter to gibbous phase. So what happens from here as we start moving closer and closer and closer, there's still all this fullness of self till we get about 5 degrees. We get about that 130 mark and the last 5 degrees of this phase, and all of a sudden we start feeling the tension coming from the gibbous phase. We start feeling the famous things of Virgo. The feedback again from others that have us having to move inward and start self-analyzing. Start pondering, start making the adjustments. This is where we go from, one of the things we say in EA about Leo and Virgo is that Leo is the top of the pyramid, Virgo goes like this, and it's the bottom of the pyramid, flips it. So from one to the other. Leroy and I always joke because he's 28 degrees Leo and I'm 2 degrees Virgo. So we're always going back and forth with that one. And it is a very interesting interplay because we have so many Pluto and Leos on the planet right now, and the Pluto and Virgos that are following them. You know, you see it all over the place. Some Pluto and Leos need to develop the sense of soul self and creativity and life force. And the other Pluto and Leos need that Aquarian polarity for objectivity and a little equality. The Pluto and Virgos, you know, there are, I see it in myself. Leroy would hands up in the air on this one. You know, I have a lot of that Virgo humility because I have the early Pluto Virgo. But I also can go into that Virgo that's just the bitch. That is just not, that is not the way you do it. Leroy, when we get to a stop sign, you see that white line? I know, it's always our joke. But so that's the energy that starts to happen right in here as we make that shift. We needed to have that new cycle. We needed to integrate it. Then we needed to manifest it. Now we have to take all this manifestation that we've learned, and we've got to start the self-reflection process of integrating and shifting the new evolutionary intent to then be an equal with society. So any two planets in a gibbous phase are always in a process of change, adjustment, all the Virgo words, self-analysis, humility. That's that's the most famous of all the Virgo words. You know, having the Leonian puffness taken out, the deflation of the ego through humility. That's what happens as we get right here. And so when we're on this side in the first quarter, it can be, again, extremely frustrating because we know how we want to do it. That Mercury-Jupiter that we were using right here in this example, Mercury knows what it wants to say. It's learned how to relate to Jupiter. It's learned how to pick up on it intuitively. But as we get closer and closer to the sesquisquadrate, people don't like what we're saying anymore. They're starting to give us feedback. You don't know the truth. You don't know it all. And they'll start to bring in their ideas and their truths and their styles of communication. You move over into the gibbous phase side of the sesquisquadrate, and it turns to yin energy again and inward. And so then there is that naturally quieting down. There's some of that natural Virgo energy that starts to come in that says, well, wait a minute, I better think about this. I better check this out. I got to get my facts straight. I better really listen to, you know, what the norms and rules are in regards to any specific belief system. As we're moving along right in here, we've got three aspects in this phase that really help us come along and do the adjustments. Biquintale, again, remember, this is the fifth harmonic, which is creative transformation. If we are still too full of self, wanting to carry this first quarter in, this is where it gets adjusted. This is where it's going to come in, and something's going to come in that'll just take the creativity right out the window between any two planets in order to help them make their adjustment. We move to the 150 quincunx. This is the 0 degrees Virgo. You all know that aspect. We move to the triseptile. This is the 7th harmonic again. This is where the element of fatedness comes in. So with the 144 biquintile, we have some choice. By the 154 triseptile, the choice is taken out if we have not been making the inner adjustments. Make sense? Following along with that? All the way through this, what starts to come here is what we will really recognize in the gibbous oppositions. What happens with the 180 degree mark, all right? There's a lot of push-pull that starts to come along here. And I'll describe it via the aspects, but recognize that this works for the whole phase in here. what happens around this 180-degree mark is self, other. First half, second half of the zodiac. And so there's a lot of alternating back and forth between push-pull. And so when you have oppositions that are less than 180 degrees, there is this feeling with the full phase following that everybody else knows everything again. There's all the Virgo self-doubt. And so the push-pull is a collapsing inward upon self, that we just want to withdraw from society and all of their opposition to us, all of their wanting to tell us how to adjust. We want to withdraw. But what can happen is we will withdraw to such a degree that eventually we become so isolated, we lose a sense of ourself, and we somehow get drawn back out into society because we need the feedback. We need the societal perspective. What will happen with the gibbous phase, with the opposite being, spirit balsamic, this is universal, this is timelessness, okay? Again, that doubt, I'll never know it all. I'll never, know what source knows. And so we can just get feeling so, between full phase following and the opposition from the balsamic, we will sometimes, again, want to just crawl in our shell. But that's not life. Life is relationship. Everything's relating to everything else. So we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Crawl in my shell, go back out and relate. Till I run into some type of opposition, and then I come back in. And we go back and forth like this. It's necessary and it's natural. Hear that? Necessary and natural around here to go back and forth like that. Because it allows us to fine-tune our own individual understandings. Did I just turn that off? Let's see if I got it. It allows us to fine-tune our own individual understandings and integrate them into society. So that the new evolutionary intent then learns how to function in society versus being so full of ourselves that we don't care what anybody else thinks or says. Now we've got to be able to function in society. This is the rite of passage into society. And the back and forth that we go through is necessary. On the gibbous side of the opposition aspects, it is easier. The tendency is to want to withdraw. It's harder to keep coming back out into society and interact with them to get the feedback. On the other side of it, on the full side of the opposition, we don't have any trouble telling anybody where to get off. That's the difference between those. That's easy to see, isn't it? And so when you can help somebody who comes in with all these oppositions in their chart and multiple planetary oppositions, some of them would be gibbous, break it down between the planets. Some of them would be full phase. Then you can tell them there's a little more listening. This is 0 degrees Libra. And the outer side of Venus, how EA knows Libra, is the psychology of listening. Being able to hear what the other is saying. There has to be an equal give and return in relationships here. Both people must be heard. Both people must be allowed to speak. And that's what we're learning to recognize when we move into this phase. All right? So, this again, this is another phase that I think is probably pretty self-explanatory with adjustments. Anybody want to throw up 2 planets in gibbous phase? Yes. Or did you put your birth date down?
Yes.
And you are, last name?
Bowman.
Kathy?
Yes. Oh, that's not right.
Did I
must
have your birth
put
date
down
wrong?
on PM, not AM.
All right, let's make this shift. Oops.
12:19 PM.
Yeah, that's 12:19.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, is that your chart?
Yeah. Jupiter,
Mars?
opposing the Saturn,
Oh, you got,
Venus, and
yeah. You've got a couple of examples that we can use here. Let's work with this with this Jupiter and these oppositions right here. Oh, we've got several of them going on. Oh, thank you. Good example. So let's work right here with Mars to Jupiter. All right, this is acting upon our beliefs. Okay, when you put Mars Jupiter together as a planetary pair, there's this desire to create and just keep creating and create. And what can happen with Mars Jupiter is, this is Jupiter. Jupiter needs, again, how we talked last night with Jupiter Saturn, Jupiter's got a boundary. You know, if one beer is good, 12 is better. You know, Jupiter needs the boundary. And so Mars, okay, thinks it can give Jupiter a boundary, but Mars just wants to get in there with Jupiter and just go for it. All right? And yet, look at how they're in the gibbous opposition. Now, let's look at, here's the easy way to do this, okay? 4 degrees Libra. Opposite of Jupiter is 4 degrees Libra, okay? 27 plus 27 to 30 is 3, plus 4 is 7. 7 degrees off from an exact opposition. Okay, follow the math there with that. And so it's moving into the opposition aspect. All right? However, that makes it what, 183 degrees? No, 173 degrees. All right? So first of all, with this, Jupiter is having to recognize its limits. Mars is having to recognize its limits with Jupiter. That's going to be the first thing. All right? That gibbous opposition, there's going to be feedback from society in some way that you don't get to have everything you want. You don't get to just keep creating and creating and creating. What are you going to do with all your stuff? Now, because it's the gibbous opposition, there can also be, as we start to bring in these signs and houses, and we've got Jupiter retrograde here. Let's break this down first, okay, for you, all right? Jupiter in Aries in the 2nd house retrograde. This is somebody who's initiated beliefs but has not taken the time to integrate them. This is somebody who could possibly, in past lives, maybe some repetition in this life, Jupiter's early Aries, that alone is wanting to bring forth new beliefs in this lifetime. So in the most recent lifetime or two, this is somebody who's really checked out new belief systems, or because Jupiter, Sag, 9th house, will relate to culture. This could be somebody who has put themselves out there in a variety of cultures in most recent past lives and feels like a stranger in your own culture. That's Jupiter in Aries, because you're meant to initiate new, you're searching for your homeland and you don't know where it is. And yet it's down here with Taurus, all right? So I'll give you a physical example. This is somebody who moves to another country and tries to find security in it, and once they get there, they decide to stay there, and 10 years later they're going, why did I move here? I don't even like this place. That's the Taurus 2nd house side of the Aries, the reaction to the Aries. So there's this back and forth energy of getting stuck in things, because Jupiter retrograde in past lives, you never did settle down very well. You know, those past lives, you just went, okay, I'm going to move here on Tuesday, and Friday I'm going to go to this country, and next week I'm going to. So that second house is trying to slow it down and integrating it, and you're still wanting to keep moving. You could have literally have done that in past lives. In regards to the right brain and the beliefs and the intuition, okay, again, what this is describing is that there has to be an integration of all these new beliefs. You can't just go keep hopping New Age classes all the time. You've got to learn how to integrate what you're learning. And it's quite possible showing up at a class like this, astrology is one of the ways that you're doing the integration with that. Now, let's go over here and take Mars, okay? And again, Mars is relating to Jupiter. So getting some foundation into this, all right? The Mars is here in Virgo, 8th house, all right? This is the psychology that's really coming through right here, where it's like, I'm only going to move again if it really makes sense to me. I'm going to really ponder this before I move. And you could be drawing in a husband with this Venus-Mars. I don't know if you're married or not. Okay. If she was married with this Venus-Mars and all this, she could be drawing in a husband who, out of the blue, 8th house confrontation, says, honey, I got a promotion. We're moving to Las Vegas next week. You know, and it can freak this out in the 2nd 8th here, because, oh my God, I've just built all my foundation around where we're at right now, and this is where I feel secure. And now, and you just move yourself into a little tizzy right here, okay? The Mars in Virgo, you know, how will I get everything packed? I don't want to go. And so being single, it will be, how are the ways that you get confrontations within yourself that cause you to doubt your beliefs, all right? That, and 8th house, you can still have friends, family, Saturn. You've got 3 planets in the 8th house. You'll still have others coming at you with the 2 Libra planets in the 8th, of saying things to you, you know, that will just cause all this Jupiter energy to go back and self-doubt. You know, I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't trust my intuition. Let's move ahead. Look at this Venus. It's past, it's, help me do my math, 7 degrees past the opposition to Jupiter. So that means the Venus-Mars midpoint is exactly opposite of this. To me, this would be lifetimes of being in relationships with other people, telling you how to be in the relationship, telling you what your standards of beliefs should be. It can be some of why you're single this lifetime. This is past lives of running off, you know, with the knight on the white horse, and then getting in the middle of nowhere, and where'd he go, you know? So here's what needs to happen with this Jupiter. You have really got to initiate trusting your own gut. You've really got to be able to trust it in here this lifetime, because there's going to be all this karma with others telling you what to trust and what to believe and what to do in relationships. And Mars is going to doubt how to act on those relationships. And Venus, the Venus and Jupiter planetary pair, again, what I see with the signs is the impulsiveness, and then feeling abandoned with the houses, okay? Venus, Jupiter, and I'm watching the time and we got a break. Okay, quick. Venus, Jupiter is, it really is integrating an ability to know we can take care of our own needs ourselves.
I can do that.
Good.
Well,
There you go. Now that's a good clue, and that's what you can work with that opposition of all those planets right there, especially that Venus-Mars. What needs do you perceive that you can't fulfill, that you got to find outside of yourself? Venus full phase to Jupiter. Mars could say the same thing. So there can be some real reflection. And with that Venus just coming off of that full phase opposition, whatever those needs are that you think you can't fulfill yourself, you got to go back to that Jupiter and figure out how. That's the two planets in opposition are always trying to find balance. And we think that balance is static. It's not. It's the push-pull. It's the in-out. It's the give and the receive. It's I need to be alone. I need to be out in society. Okay, we need to break. We can stop here and come back with this with more information if you want. If you have questions on the website or our multimedia course, that Leroy can answer questions as well as me. He did a beautiful job editing all of our DVDs. The multimedia course we still do on the DVDs, and he's done a wonderful job editing them.